Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nodelman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And the sound of that tone means it is time once again for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I am Mike Nodelman.
That must be Aaron Berk.
You must be Aaron Berk. And tonight we have a loaded show, so we are going to not delay and get right to it. Aaron, you just got back from the fun show in Florida and the New York International show. Where do you want to start this week? Decisions.
Let's just everybody, let's just get, it's tense, 10 days for me anyway. It was 10 days, but anyway, the fun show was fun, and and it was entertaining and all that. And then a good friend of mine, Mike Ward, gave me a nice little lift to New York. Very nice of him. Thanks, Mike.
Kudos to Mike.
And to his lovely wife as well. And, and then we hit New York and hit the ground running. And so it was Triton time, Triton 2025. So let's go over some review of the New York auctions, and it'll give us an idea of what the market's doing. So the first one that we reviewed in episode number 57 was this Arcadia Stater type. And I can confirm, because we did a whole thing on this, that there was no hair, or there was no hairline in the metal, that it was actually probably a hair, or something. So,
in the picture, in the photo.
Yeah. So it wasn't there. And so this piece was the record holder at 300,000 plus juice, and it is still the record holder, but now at 400,000 hammer. Crazy price.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money, a lot of moolah, a lot it's a ton, especially for a piece that only has a pedigree back to the early 2000s. So, but it is a fantastic coin. It is the finest known. I won't take anything away from that. And
how could it be done?
And congratulations to the owner. They have a wonderful coin without a hair.
Absolutely.
So, moving on, because we're going to kind of jam through this, because we got so much to talk about here.
We got a lot.
We have the Kizikis Stater. I love this coin. I thought it was amazing when I saw it. It was great seeing it in person. I hope any of you guys if you were able to get to New York or you live in the area, hopefully you went to the viewing rooms and actually saw some of these coins in hand. Even though we can't all afford them, we can all enjoy them in the viewing rooms. So, but this one actually, for a heck day, they usually are not this dynamic, and this one is very dynamic. I thought the price was in line at 11,000 hammer for what it was. It could have easily gone for more. It is a tiny coin, but a lot going on. So tiny sucker that packed a big punch, as far as I'm concerned.
It's a cool coin.
It is cool.
A lot of depth to it.
Really small.
Yeah, 350 BC too.
It is. And if you know this series at all, a lot of it's just, one head, a couple variations, but this has a lot going on here. So really great coin. Next coin is lot 485. That was the Hadrian Roman Egyptian dram. And this for sure is the finest known for the type. It really is amazing. And I love this coin because of the fact that you basically, when it comes to Egyptian drams, this has everything that has to do with Egypt. You have the Sphinx, you have I guess there's a griffin behind. I think that's a griffin.
It looks like.
And Mike S. Vogt actually pointed this coin out to me along with another one, that they were the finest he had ever seen, and he's probably correct. And they were really great. And I know who it went to, and it went to a fine home with a fine collection. And so,
Will be loved for a long time.
It will. It will. And hopefully will come out in I know the collector is working on a future publication. So of Hadrian. And so hopefully someday we'll all get to enjoy this again within his work. So fantastic coin, and kudos to him. Next slot, the all famous Idmar. And everybody was waiting to see what was going to happen here. I suggested 350 to 375. Went over that. Went for 450 plus the 22.5%, which I think comes to about 570,000. Bam! Wow.
Now, how does this rank as far as the rest of them go?
It's definitely one of the better ones. A lot of them are corroded because of the group that came out in the 90s. It would have been nicer if it had a 1930s pedigree or something earlier in 1970, but it's still a fantastic coin. I ended up meeting the collector, super nice guy, and his son, and they wanted one of these for a long time, and kudos to him for getting it and not listening to my advice because he wouldn't have gotten it if he listened to my advice. But this is one of those things where it really, it is definitely one of the, upper, 5% of the ones out there in that level. And so it's really hard to say that if anybody really overpays for these things, because ultimately you have the one that brought 1.2 million all in. So this is half that, more than half that. So, with that ceiling up there for that one, it makes all the rest kind of seem reasonable in a sense. If reasonable can be reasonable for $500,000, but, this is crazy money for most people. So
I was going to say, I guess reasonable is relative.
It is very relative, guys, very relative. But it's an attractive coin. Even with the banker's mark on the cap on the reverse, the metal is really good.
That's actual on purpose mark. I did not know.
Yeah, it's a banker's mark. So, it's a wonderful coin. And I can only see these things going up in value over the years. They seem to keep moving upwards. Every time I think there's a ceiling, it keeps on going. So, so anyway, great coin. Moving on to lot 678, the Vespasian Aureus. Went for 8,000 hammer. I suggested this would be a great coin for somebody's 12 Caesar set that can't afford to spend, huge money on one, even though 8,000 is still a lot of money for a lot of people. But for a 12 Caesar Aureus with Judea Capta, 8,000 is a very reasonable price for this. I'm proud of whoever won this. They did a great job. That's an honest coin with not a lot of issues. It's the proper grade, and it's a wonderful reverse type, and should make somebody very, very proud to get it at the price that they got it. I could have seen this going for at least 12,000, and so at 8,000, I think it's a bargain. And so kudos to them.
It will go for 12,000 someday.
Someday. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if you add the 8,000 plus the 22.5%, you're upping that.
Well, no, but I'm saying that someday that coin probably will sell for 12 grand.
Well, someday it might be 20 grand.
Right.
So, there were some deals in the auction. I think overall the auction was strong. I will point out there was one situation that came up, and I don't know if it's been spread around. The internet gets a little crazy in some of the discussion groups and kind of goes off on tangents. But I was there, and so I saw most of it. And what had happened is that on the day of the first day of Triton, early in the morning, Homeland Security showed up at the viewing room of C&G. And they confiscated 66 or 67 coins. Wow. And it turns out it was mainly one collection. Everybody thought it was for legality issues beyond, for stolen coins or something. But most of the coins had pedigrees. But it turns out it was one collection, and there was a family dispute. It's a European family, and there was a discussion or a problem with ownership. And supposedly whoever consigned them maybe didn't have the okay of the rest of the family to do so. And so they, unfortunately, the other family members, they got in touch with the American government, which then got in touch with Homeland Security. Now, the problem is that when Homeland Security came in, C&G asked how long they knew that this was coming down the pipeline, and they knew for a month, but they didn't. They waited till the night before to get the okay by the judge to come in. And their response to that was, why didn't you let us know a month ahead? We could have planned a little bit better. But that's not what Homeland Security does.
No, you don't let them tip people off to what's going on.
Yeah. But it was unfortunate because, for instance, I had clients that had a lot of bids on some of those coins, quite a few of them. I had at least 15 or more bids for clients on those things. And, the clients could have then moved their bids around elsewhere, or reallocated with their thinking on where they would go stronger or softer.
Yeah, they would have planned it out.
And so it really gave nobody an opportunity to plan anything. And so maybe someday those coins will come back up onto the market. I would feel bad for anybody who had to travel to the auction just for a couple of coins that ended up getting taken out. That would have really stunk. But it's... I was glad that it wasn't for something like stolen artifacts out of a source country or something like that. That would be a lot worse for the industry than an issue over custody. Yeah, exactly. So that's what happened. Stinks. I think it's terrible the way the government handled it. They could have handled it better. But that's the way it goes in this play box, or the sandbox, I should say. So that's going to bring us to the New York sale, which happened a couple days later. And so their best coin was the Mende tetragram, and it went for 45,000. I think that's all in with them. I think they put in their price realized with their 20%. They charged 20. Fantastic coin, for sure worth it. I don't think it's a runaway price by any means. I think that it sold where it was supposed to sell. I think there's probably a lot of deals in this sale. I know some people that got some very good deals in the sale. Sometimes when you have like a mammoth like Triton, and then you have these smaller auctions and they don't have like the entire sale isn't like stellar, a lot of people don't show up. And so the other issue is that the New York sale was happening the night of the ANS dinner, which is the American Numismatic Society. And so most of us are there. And so you can't be in two places at once. I've tried, but it doesn't really work. So
I guess it all depends on how hardcore you are.
Right, exactly. But I know some people who went and they did very well at the auction, getting some things. So bringing us to the next lot that we reviewed last sale. This is the Parthian Dram. It went unsold. It was obviously estimated maybe higher than it should have been, but it was a fantastic coin. I'm sure.
Was that due to reserve not being met?
I would assume, yeah. Well, it just means they opened it, whatever reserve they had on it,
right,
and no one bid. And so whether that is, certain auction houses, it's like 60%, some are, they all vary, and some will say 60%, but then when they open it, sometimes it's different, it might be 20%. So, but it also depends on the bids that they got in the book and all of those things. So
makes sense.
But it's kind of, certain auction houses, you don't really know, right? Because they could be, say that they have a bid, but they don't really have a bid, but they are protecting their consignor or their bottom line or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
But there's no way for us to really know any of that. So
just a newbie asking a newbie question.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a question?
No, that was me before.
My bad. I'm a little slow. It must be the no days off in like 14 days.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh God.
I know it's like the little what is that? The smallest violin.
Yeah, you
I think it's like this. I think it's like
jets off to New York and
Isn't it like this? Isn't this the smallest violin? I think this is it, right?
One second,
Go like
I
that.
take a look. I gotta get back to that.
I think it's when you go like this.
It's
I don't know. Nobody needs to see my fingers
this,
moving like that.
this,
Yeah,
this.
that's it. That's it. That's it. So anyway, great coin. I'm sure maybe somebody picked it up in the after sale. Who knows? Hard to say. And that goes to the next lot, number 1190. And we profiled this.
Green.
It could be their color.
Maybe it's just a photo.
I viewed this coin. It looked fine from the photo, in person. And I know somebody mentioned in the comments of the last episode that they were going to bid on this. Hopefully they did, because I think they got a decent deal. So for $270, that's a wonderful architectural type. And we talked about the city and the fact that they had walls that were 10 meters high and 100 different towers in various locations, and some of it still existed today. So I love provincial coins for that reason. And there are millions and millions of different varieties that I think most of us have never seen. And that's the beauty of provincial coinage. So, and then the last lot is number 1191. And this is Antinous, the favorite or the lover of Hadrian, and showing him as a shepherd, which he was on the reverse of the coin. And, it went just under estimate. And that's probably where it should be. So,
okay.
I don't think it's a rare coin, but I think that, it just wasn't going to pull in the kind of buyers that Triton had, I suppose. It's also like, it's kind of a specialty coin too, I think you can get a lot of Antinous much cheaper. And so I don't know if anybody really cares about that reverse type. If it's really important to them, I think you need to be a specialist to really appreciate that. And so you can pick up a very nice Antinous sometimes for, $1,000 or $2,000. So they used to go for big money, but they're not as popular as they once were. So I think a lot of the collectors either have them or there's been more that have come out. I don't know what the reasons are, but in the past, whenever you had an Antinous, it would sell it was like hot cake. You couldn't keep it very long in stock. It was gone. And now, now they'll sit for a little bit longer. So I think, they should be quite happy that they got what they got for the coin, honestly. So, anyway, that was the New York sale. And then moving on to the stack sale, which I actually was able to go to, and I got a lot of great deals in the sale, a lot of great deals. So again, opportunities, guys. There was nobody in the room except for a few of us, and we all, I think we all got some good deals. I mean, there are some things that didn't make sense, but I think in general, the sales did quite well for us wholesale buyers. Which is not what consigners want to hear, but that's the problem with auctions, is it's really just gambling.
This particular lot must have seen some spirited bidding.
Yeah, I mean it's
600 and finished 2,600.
Right. I mean, their estimates started pretty low. This one, again, that's with the buyer's fees added already, because Stacks and Heritage and New York Sale, they add their buyer's fees already. So that's all in at 2,600. And so, though, let me see here. Maybe it may have gone for a lot, for more. 26. No, that didn't include their buyer's fees. So that one went for 3,120 all in, actually. But I think that's about what that's worth. I think it's worth, 2,500 to 3,500. So I think that it went for exactly where it was supposed to go.
Nice looking coin.
So, but these things can go for, it's a nice coin, and these things can go for a lot more. So it's a very, very good type for the type. Now everything was slabbed, obviously, because Stacks and Heritage sell. That's how they sell. And so there's that. But I think as long as there wasn't a star designation or something crazy on the slab, there was a lot of deals to be had. So, which was cool. If you go to the next lot, number 31021, an affordable decadram. It's kind of a one-sided coin, and I viewed it, and it definitely was a one-sided coin. So the obverse was very, very nice. The reverse was terrible, but it went for just under 20 grand all in, and that's about what it's worth. I would say probably with those surfaces, if I had it in my lot, I would probably not ask more than 15,000 for it, maybe 18,000. So it kind of went for where it should go. Mid-range ones are going for 25 to 40 and up, and then great ones are going for 100,000 plus. So, I mean, there was a one in the Triton sale that, a great one that went for, I think it went for 160,000 or something like that. So, definitely the great ones are bringing really silly money.
As they should.
As they should.
Money, but they should bring the big
but
money.
It's still pushing the lower one. So if you asked me about this coin 10 years ago, it's a $8,000 to $10,000 coin. And so it's creeping up because the ones that are in mid-range are becoming unattainable for most people. And so even at 15 to 20 grand, it's still a lot of money for most people, but it becomes the new norm for the low end of the decadrams. So the market, it gets pushed, especially on famous coins like this, and you can definitely see it. If you go to the next lot, the Lydian Trite 31084, I thought that's a great coin. Great sunburst, very well balanced. It went for 3840 all in, and we've profiled in the doofus where some of these things are going for 15, 20 grand. And it's ridiculous. Here's a great coin, great sunburst, 3,800. It's reasonable for what it is. And, obviously, as you start to give away quality or the sunburst or it's off center a little bit, these things should go down to at least 1,500 to 2,000. And then even cheaper depending on how worn it is. But this is a great coin for that money. And that's kind of where I think these things should be priced out at. And that's why I point to some of those other ones being doofuses, because there's no reason to pay that much money for coins that come up on a regular basis. You just have to be patient and wait. Just wait for yours to come around, because it's going to come around. And I keep telling this to the clients I work with. Okay, you didn't get it. Move on. Let's move on.
Well, there'll be another one.
There'll be another one.
Just like a buff. There'll be another one.
There's no reason to overpay. There's another one coming just around the corner. So,
do you want Mr. Right, or do you want Mr. Right now?
That's right. And it's tough because, like I have some clients that, really want an Eidmar and they don't want to pay $500,000 for one. And I totally understand that. And there's no reason why you can't get a great Eidmar for, 250 to 300, even though that's ridiculous for most people.
Well, I mean, for me, it is.
I mean, I saw a 4A Eidmar at the show that we sold to a client in, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, and he paid $5,750 for it. And it's probably worth 10 to 15,000 now, but the chances of most people owning an Eidmar are pretty slim. But getting a 4A is possible.
Right.
It's still a lot of money.
Attainable.
It for sure is. And so, but it's interesting to see the prices and how much they've changed in the last 25 years. So even in the last 10 years, they've really shot up, since 2012, even, they've really gone crazy. So, anyway, next lot, that's the Bernique the second, one of my favorite coins, a dodecadram.
This does not strike me as an ancient coin. It just doesn't look like it. It looks too modern.
Well, it's one of the largest coins issued by the Greeks, by the Ptolemies in this case.
And that makes more sense.
and they generally always have the crack. That's pretty common. You rarely see them without the crack, but a lot of these are going for 50, 75 grand, and this one went for 38,400 all in. That was a great buy for that. Really good buy. And so somebody should be very proud with that purchase. So I like seeing that there's deals still to be had in auctions. That's a good thing to see. So, and I'll tell you why it's a good deal, because if you went back 20, 25 years ago, this is a $20,000 to $25,000 coin. And so having it go for 38,400 all in, it's pretty damn good. So, I mean, you're turning back the clock a bit, to some degree.
Definitely of value.
So anyway, that was the New York sale. I didn't really profile anything in the Heritage. I noticed the one thing I did notice in the Heritage sale is there was some really crazy prices. There was a Caligula Aureus that went for $500,000 hammer. Crazy price, really crazy price. Great coin, but crazy price. But they had a whole run of gold octadrams of the Ptolemies, which normally go for crazy money, but they had them all estimated at like 20,000, and they all had problems, every single one of them, and every single one of them went unsold. So it was really good to see that there were still some smart buyers over there. They had more, unsolds in the Heritage sale that I had ever seen in a long time. And it was because, it wasn't really their fault. Obviously their client needed high estimates, and they made them keep those on. And sometimes you don't win when you put in high estimates, and you think you're protecting yourself as a consigner, and really what you're doing is you're eliminating the market. Because what happens is that people look at it and say, well, it's got a problem. I'm not going to pay 20 grand for that. But if you estimated it at 10,000, then maybe a lot of them would have gone for 15 or 18. But
sometimes even they'll go for the 20 grand still.
And
when
sometimes
you get
they'll even go for
bidding and
right.
Get it going.
Right. So when people ask, like, why do they start the estimates so low? That's why, because, and sometimes they're ridiculously low, right? They're almost like throwaways. When something is estimated at 500 and it goes for 5,000, it's obviously there's no correlation to the estimate in some situations. And so you can't even really say that the estimates in some cases are even wholesale, like a lot of the people who own auction houses would say they are, because you really have to study it and study the market to know really what the prices are. I mean, I've seen coins where they're estimated at 500, and I'll look them up in Coin Archives or AC Search, and I'll see they consistently go for 4,000. Well, I'm not going to advise my client to bid $1,000, which would be double estimate. I'm going to tell them you're going to have to be in the 4,000 range to have a chance at it. And for sure, when the item comes up for auction, guess what we're doing? We're competing with other people up to 4,000. It's just, that's the market, right? And if we're lucky and we get it for 2,500, then you're like, okay, well, that's a great deal, because I know that there was a slew of them that sold for 4. So, you always take every coin as a coin by coin basis. And it doesn't, people complain sometimes to me, like, why don't you talk about cheap coins? It's the same philosophy, guys. Exact same philosophy. If you're looking at a coin that normally brings $250, you're not going to pay 500 for it unless it is deemed to be that price because it has a great pedigree or it has some style that no one's ever seen before. It has to have some reason to warrant the double in price. So if something always goes for $250, you're going to want to pay $250, and you're going to go below that or above that based on however the coin speaks to you, or what pedigree it has, or whatever situation, surface condition, whatever it is. And so whether I'm talking about $50,000 coins or $250 coins, it's the exact same philosophy. The difference, the one thing I can say is that if you're collecting 250, if your budget is $250 or even $100, you have obviously a lot more opportunity to buy coins than the people who are focusing on really high-end coins, because not always high-end coins in every single sale, but there are definitely a lot of inexpensive coins in the $100 to $200 range in most e-sales and other auctions throughout. So you can definitely pick and choose and decide where you want to spend your money, and actually have a lot more to pick from in the lower levels than you do in the higher levels. But the philosophy is exactly the same.
And then from a standpoint of us, what we cover being high end, it's like one, the high end coins are easier to teach with because you see more of what's going on and more of what's supposed to be there. But they're also more interesting. It's like you can take every lesson that we've learned and apply it to pretty much any age.
Well, that's why I showed that decagram of Syracuse that was really ugly on one side. I wouldn't want to own that coin, but there's a lot of people who can't afford to spend a lot of money on one. Now, if somebody offered me that coin for $8,000, I would buy it, because then I can offer it to a client for 12 or 13,000 and satisfy them. And I'm here to satisfy all clients. So sometimes that means me buying ugly coins because it's going to serve a purpose for a client I'm working with. So, and I don't limit myself to just high-end clients. I try to serve all clients in all price ranges. So, but the price has to make sense for the quality of the coin.
Right.
So anyway, so there was some doofuses, and we'll go over a couple of them. So the first one, it was in Triton, and great coin, but
this takes me back, I think, to our first episode.
It might, yeah. So these are not rare. My only thought is like, I would want, when people were bidding on this, I was thinking, and it got up to 14,000. I was like, is it somebody buying it for the slabbing market? Do they think they can get that into a high designated holder? That's the only thing I could think of. It's a great coin, but these, if you go back, even 5 years ago, this is a $2,500 to $4,500, $2,500 to $3,500 coin, all day long. And so they're not rare. It's sometimes hard to get them perfect, but I wouldn't say this one's perfect. Even like it has that die flaw on the obverse where the E is there on the left side. And so, I wouldn't say this is perfect. I think, a lot of times the eye of the ibex on the back is, they're often worn. So, but for that amount of money, I would expect, that's hammer, guys. That's without the 22.5%. I would expect hopefully to get an eye out of the animal on the reverse, and I have to say, I looked this coin up. You know how much it brought in 2015? This exact coin? $3,750. You're going to tell me that it's appreciated that much in 10 years? I don't know. I don't think so.
That's huge profit.
Huge. So I got to call this a doofus, because I think that there's a lot of these out there. You could have bought one a lot more reasonably. There was no reason to, chase this above 10,000, in my opinion. So,
but wait, there's more.
There's more. We're going to do a non-doofus purchase, because I should tell people when I appreciate seeing good deals be had. And I already think I did that throughout this show already.
I think you have.
But let's talk about it. So, and it was a heritage coin as well. So it is ex-jewelry, but these Julius Caesar portrait coins in gold, extremely hard to get. Very, very hard to get. And I'll prove to you why this was a great purchase. This coin in 2008 brought 32,000 all in, and here it brought about the same amount of money. So you could say, well, it didn't appreciate it all. Well, I think somebody just got a great deal. I don't care if this coin is ex-jewelry. I really don't. If most people who have a 12 Caesar set in gold will not have a portrait of Caesar in their 12 Caesar set. And so this fits perfectly into a 12 Caesar set in gold. It'll make your set or their set a set that most people won't be able to have like this. And if it wasn't ex-jewelry, it's a $50,000 to $75,000 coin. So at least 50. So So I think somebody got a great purchase on that. I was getting ready to put my hand up, but then I thought, well, yeah, I could spend my money more wisely. So
I learned something new in this coin, and that's that this is Caesar as dictator, right?
yep.
But also as Pope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some religious significance there. Not the kind of Pope you think of today, but you know,
No,
anyway.
no, because this is BC, but
Right.
still, he's Pontifex Maximus that's the head dude.
It's true. It's very true. It's very, very true. And yeah, and then you have Octavian on the other side. So you got your two favorite guys. You have Julius Caesar and you have Octavian. So I don't know. I think it was a great buy. I think that this is where the slabbing doesn't work because it was downgraded obviously to a 2 out of 5 for surface because of the X jewelry, and so immediately people were turned off by it. And if you knew anything about this series, you would know that should have no bearing whatsoever. I mean, it has a little bearing, but come on. In general, to me, I would be very proud to own this coin. Very, very proud to own that coin. And so this is a situation where it doesn't really matter. So kudos to the new owner. They did a great job, and they paid 2008 prices. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yes. So let's talk about an upcoming sale. That's the review for New York. And let's talk about an upcoming sale. And it's going to be the Hirsch sale out of Munich, Germany. It's going to be February 11th, 634 lots. There's some really interesting things here, guys. So take a look at it. It's kind of the, Hirsch sometimes has things that are not necessarily kosher. In general, they do sell good things, but they do guarantee everything they sell. So if you ever have a problem, they will take it back. So they're a sound company, member of the IEPN. Occasionally. The other thing is they don't always publish all their pedigrees. So, and I'll show you why, or show you an example of that in a second. But so there might be some really old pedigrees in here too, which could be really interesting. So I thought that was interesting because I'm going through and I'm not seeing any pedigrees, and then occasionally I'd see one, and I'm like, then I looked up one coin and I was like, oh, it's come up 3 times, and I'll show you in a second. So the first lot I want to talk about was lot 1055. So this is the Kosan Dram, which is the silver version of the gold one that we profiled a few shows ago, where these are issues of Brutus with the counselors walking there between them on the obverse. And interesting story about these silver Kosans, and that's why I brought it up, is that there was a horde of these found in Romania, and supposedly a lot of them come out of there, that region. And this is going back maybe 15 years ago, and there was a group of these that came onto the market. There was none around at all, and then all of a sudden a small group came onto the market, and we were selling them, and other people were selling them, and it turns out that somebody had actually smuggled them out of Romania, and they had photos of them, and it turns out the person got arrested, and then the Romanian government started going after all of these pieces. So we were actually contacted, and we had to go to our clients and get coins back, which was kind of embarrassing. And so did everybody else. Luckily, we had only sold like maybe 5 or 6 of them, something like that, and we got them all back. There was another issue that they came with as well. There was actually 2. And what was really interesting is the Romanian government they ended up paying us for the coins, which was really weird. The whole thing was just weird. They started going after imperatorial coins, saying that all imperial coins were coming from Romania, which was not true. And it turns out that they were really just fishing to get coins brought into the country for free. And so it was kind of the story at the time. And but we had to spend a lot of money on legal fees and stuff. And in the end, they ended up buying the coins from us, which was really strange. The whole thing was really strange. But I always shy away from these just because of that situation. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But I just thought it was interesting because that's kind of a story people don't necessarily always hear. And there was another type that was with this that was more problematic than this. But anyway, there's the story with those. So going on to the next lot, 1206. Interesting coin. And it has these come out of Asia Minor from Caria. And on the reverse of this, you have a boy riding with a dolphin, basically. And the story goes is that he was started swimming with the dolphin. Eventually, he got stabbed by the dorsal fin. And by the time the dolphin brought him to shore, he expired. And so the dolphin expired on purpose with him. And so, and there's a lot of stories of, youths being saved by dolphins. We all know about the Tarentums with Tarsus, who was saved by a dolphin, is on the obverse of the coin, but has a horse on the reverse. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought, well, it kind of has this weird Bulgarian look on the obverse, and I didn't really like that. And so, I was like, well, it doesn't have a pedigree, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to research it because this is a rare coin. And so, Mike, if you want to bring up the slideshow. And so I brought up, all I did was do a quick search, maybe go full screen on it. So we can just go right into the slideshow. There we go. So I did a quick search, and you can see there's the first coin that pops up. That's the coin that's being offered. But if you go right below it, it's the same coin. So basically, Hirsch offered this coin last, May, and it went unsold. And what's interesting is that when they listed it in May, the estimate was $5,250, and now the estimate's $6,000. So it went unsold, and they raised the price.
Yeah, that doesn't track.
Which is weird. Now, if you go down to the bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say this bottom one looks kind of familiar.
It's the same coin. And so there it came up in C&G, and it brought 3,000.
Seems like nobody owns this coin
and
very long.
$3,000. No, but and that was only in 2023. And so of course, Hirsch didn't mention the C&G listing because they are hoping nobody finds it. And so it went for 3,000 hammer, and here they've got it at double. Now I think they're basing it on the fact that one in the middle brought 14,000. But see how much nicer the face is? It's really kind of sweet. And this one's got a really harsh looking face.
Yeah,
and,
looks like.
Yeah, and the one that brought 14,000, the estimate was like 2,500. And so and that sold in 2023 in May. And so it was, and guess what, guys? Highest price ever paid for one of these. They are rare. There are only, from what I saw on Coin Archives anyway, there was only 21 examples. So it is a rare coin. There was a couple that brought 12 and 13,000, but the 14 is the highest price. But, sometimes just doing and I'm sure you could get the same listings in AC search. Just doing a quick little search, look how much information it brought up for us that we can see that, one, I can see that the type of quality of one I'd rather have. Obviously it's a lot more money, but there was other ones that were a little less quality, but had the same kind of die work. I think the die work on this obverse is pretty lousy on the obverse, and in comparison to the one that brought 14,000. So that's the die work I want. Maybe not pay the kind of price that it went for, but now I know, nobody liked it the first time when they sold it last year. Now they raised the estimate, which doesn't make sense to me at all. and they didn't mention any of the fact that it was in. They're not going to mention that was in their last year's sale and it didn't sell because that looks bad. And they raised the estimate, but also we can see where it came from back in 2023. So, and that took me like a whole 5 minutes to bring up. It was mostly just typing in coin archives and then so doing the search and then bringing it up. And this was the first 5 listings. So
it's interesting because I see the same pattern in US coins where, something sells for a big price. All of a sudden, all of its brothers and sisters just come out of the woodwork and go up for sale.
And it happens in ancient coins too. You'll see like the one coin they didn't talk about in C&G in the Triton sale was the Nectanebo II, which is the Egyptian coin that has the only hieroglyphic on a coin. The one last year brought 200,000 hammer, and I actually bought that one this year for 190,000, and it had a better pedigree, and I think it's a better coin. And so I got it for 10,000 less than the one the year before. And that's a situation. That's a really rare coin, but it pulled the other one out into the auction scene, right? Because they saw, it went for 200,000. I'm going to sell mine. And it basically went for the same amount, but a little bit less. But my client got a better price because sometimes the client is rarer than the piece, especially when you're talking about those kinds of numbers. Most people can't afford to spend that kind of money. And now there was already a bidder that was satisfied because they won the one the year before. They're not going to need 2. And so obviously you eliminate a whole buyer. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to run something so quickly, I guess is my point. 1 year in between a very rare coin like that. Maybe if they waited about 3 or 4 years and then sold it, they may have gotten a lot more for the coin. Because now there's more buyers in the market, and there's a little bit of turnover, and people who haven't seen that coin, have a need for it now. And so
now that it's been run twice within a year,
same type, not the same coin, not the same coin.
No, this
2 separate coins. This coin, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we do that all the time. We have coins that we regurgitate back into our buyer bid sale, but sometimes we leave at the same price. But most of the time we lower the price. Occasionally we'll raise the price, but only if the market drastically has changed on these coins. And so on a specific coin, I would say most of the time we're lowering our prices, not raising our prices if we're rerunning coins. So, but everybody has their reasons and everybody has their own philosophies. So I can question somebody else's, but they get to make the decision.
Fair.
So if you want to continue on this slideshow, we're going to go into something that I saw at the show, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about it. I was working with a client at the show, and we were walking around the show, and we came across, I don't really want to talk about who had the coin. I mean, somebody could probably figure it out on their own, but I'm not really trying to talk about any particular company. But we saw a Titus Sestercius that I thought was fantastic for quality. And if you want to go to the next slide. So here it is. This is Titus Sestercius, and you can see the pedigree goes all the way back to 1906.
Yeah.
And when you hold the coin, it's like medallic. It's like the portrait really is like it pops at you. It's just like really amazing. But it has these red blotches on it. And so, and it wasn't cheap. I think if it was a little bit more reasonable, it wouldn't matter as much. But, but we ended up pulling up some of the older auction catalogs to see what the coin looked like before, to see if it had been messed with, because the company, they're Europeans. And so their English isn't always the best in the way that they describe it in English. And it made it sound like in their description that despite its tooling, it was still a fantastic coin. And so now you don't know like how much has been worked on it and how much has not been worked on. Mm-hmm. And so if you go to the next slide, so here's the coin in 1906. And the other thing is that when you look at black and white versus color, the shades, and so when we looked at it originally. Now I'll show you some of the other ones, but when we looked at the Bank Loy version from 95, I think. We'll see when we get there. But it looked like they had purposely covered over with putty or something, and maybe that red was putty over some of the pits on the coin. And so if you go to the next slide. So here's the coin in 1985. And this is what we looked at. And so you see these like kind of bubbling.
Texture.
Yeah, the texture of it. But if you look at it and then the color version, you see some of the same lines and some of the same depressions. And so and the other thing is when I looked it up in Mazzini in 1905, they actually describe it as with a reddish patina. So that reddish patina was on there in 1906. So nothing's really changed with the coin. And so we thought it was all messed with more recently because based on this black and white photo, but it's not really the case. If you go to the next slide. So here's the coin when it came up in Sotheby's in 1995, and there's a color version of it. So you can see all the blotches are there. All the red is there. It's the same red. And
Tina is basically identical.
It's identical. So nothing really has changed on this coin since 1906. So, and maybe it had an earlier pedigree obviously it has an older pedigree than 1906, but no one's been able to find, or that's when it was found around 1906. Hard to say. But, we thought that somebody really had messed with the coin. And so after I'd gone back and researched this, I realized it was just a black and white photo and the shading that kind of like threw us off. Now that, that color could have been added. And the other thing too was, David Vagey was showing a picture of this coin and he just said, oh, it's all smoothed and I wouldn't even grade it. And I think that would be a travesty too, because here's a coin that has a mile-long pedigree. It's a very, very pleasant coin in hand. If that red was applied, which it may have been, could it be taken off? And then the original surfaces are probably not that bad underneath, or is that really the way that's the way the coins look since 1906. So if you go to the next slide. Now I have to say that the coin did go unsold in this auction. And so, obviously people didn't like it for that reason, or it was just too expensive, one or two. So this is when the coin last came up in 1997 in the Italo Vecchi sale. And you can even see the depression in front of the chin in the black and white. You can see it in the color there too, but the black and white just makes it stand out a lot more because of the shading, And so it's not like anything was done between 95 in Sotheby's and 97 with Vecchi. It's the same coin and nothing's changed since 1906. So, but the beauty of this is when you actually go through the old catalogs, you can really see it. And the other thing to keep in mind too is back in 1906, they made molds of the coins and shot the plaster casts. They actually didn't shoot the coins. They shot the casts. And so now you're getting it from a reproduction, essentially.
Which is going to have a different texture to it at times.
Have a different texture as well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. Now here, if you want to hit that link there on the, there's a link there, right there, and it'll bring up the video from my phone. You just click that. What's that?
No, it won't.
Oh, it didn't work for you?
I don't have access.
Oh, all right. Well, whatever. So anyway, if anybody wants to see it, I have a video of the coin, but it pretty much looks exactly like this. You know what, Mike, I probably give you quick access to it.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just go there really quick.
Here, let me send you a request.
Oh, did you make a share request?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because it'd be fun, guys, to show you this. All right, I see your request. I see you. I got you. Modern technology, guys.
There you
We
go.
use it on our phones. We can do whatever we want. Share. All right. Can you hit it now?
Yep. Sure can.
There you go. And hit play. And you're gonna get this is at the show. And you can see it's and yeah, I didn't have gloves on. Sorry guys. But I wiped all the peanut butter off my fingers, so it was all good.
There you go.
So
It's an ancient coin.
but great. It was a great coin. It was a great coin. I think that I think we were a little harsh on it when we were there at the show and after studying it. Do I think it was worth what they were asking for it? Probably not. They were asking like 20 grand for it, close to 20 grand, which is a lot of money for that. But it was a fantastic bronze. You usually don't see sesterce like that. And the other thing is that in every auction catalog, it said it was tooled. They said light tooling in every single catalog. Nobody was trying to hide anything.
Accurately described.
So completely. And I know that reddish was there back in 1906 because I had to translate the description from Italian to English, and it said reddish patina, reddish brown patina.
There you go.
So I know it was there then too. So anyway, that brings me to a pearl of wisdom, which is more for me than it is for most of you, maybe, possibly. But it is, there is a time for work and there is a time for play. And so I've been working my tail off, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who had to deal with the auctions and everything else had to as well. Just make sure to take a break, enjoy the coins that you were able to acquire, and take a breather, because this is the time to do so. And there's always going to be another auction, another show down the road. And
there's always something to chase. Every once in a while, you got to recharge.
But there was a lot of people down at Fun, and then there was a ton of people up in New York, and a lot of people did both shows. So it's a long stint to be doing. And so I also really appreciate everybody coming up and telling me how much they enjoyed the show. Everybody was asking for Mike wherever I went.
Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Somebody has to run the shop.
And when people say I love Mike, and then I tell Mike, they love you, he says, what's your answer when I say that?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
So thanks again, everybody, for all the support and for making this show possible, and our community great. I think our community is very strong. The coin business, I think, is very, very strong. Both the Fun Show and New York International were very well attended. The auctions in general were very well, bid up, and I think that the ancient coin market is extremely strong right now, and only getting better over time. There were so many collectors that came up to me that said, "I just got into ancients." I heard it so many times, and I'm glad that most of them said that they use the show to help them navigate the pitfalls. And so, and that's what this show is for.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to me the coin collecting is back in vogue. It's
I think after COVID. I think after COVID, and a lot of young people
just kind of went back to their roots.
Yeah,
it's a pastime that has been around for a long time for a reason.
Yep. And so many young people, which is really great to see. Really great to see. A lot of parents with their kids, and it was really, really nice to see. And not just like the kid who gets dragged to the coin show. There was like teenagers there that dragged their parents there.
Yes.
So
we're seeing more and more of that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see it in the store all the time too.
It's encouraging.
It really is. It really is. And it's great to see, because if you ask me, I think I've talked about this, you asked me 5 years ago, I would say that the coin industry was in a decline. And now I think it's definitely here to stay for at least another generation or two.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to hold you to that one.
I think it looks good. So I guess that's our show for today.
Yeah, that's 58. So Thank
we
you to
crammed it.
everybody who helped make this possible. Thank you to everybody who listened. Thank you to the people who have stopped in, sent comments, been encouraging. Please, like and subscribe to our videos. That's pretty much all you're ever going to hear from us. And thanks for tuning in. And we will see you another couple of weeks. Episode 59,
Bam.
the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.
And Mike Nodelman.
That's not the name of the show.
Just adding
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the Ancient Coin Market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things or to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.